I think the closer you can be to the technology, the better you can run it.
And now you're at this company I had to look up to see what they do, MrBeast.
We're selling more than just a product. We're really selling lifestyle, we're selling movements. And so this idea that Ruggable, where it was all about alleviating stress, like how do we live a stress-free life? Also about how do we make kindness viral?
Yeah, like a real person did this. I don't care how they got there. I'm shocked at how fast they got there and how good this is. But I know that someone like truly cared about doing this, and that's going to have an impact downstream for our customers.
How do we use AI to help us do more with less? And so I think that the roles hiring is always the same. You find the right person for the role that you're hiring for.
It can be incredibly powerful, but it's not a shortcut. It's to be really curious or to be discerning and to use it to learn, not to use it to cheat. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Brilliant Commerce Podcast. This is not deja vu. This afternoon, I'm sitting almost in a sort of an interview style setup with JP Beeghly and Josh Maynard, who you may remember were my guests in the inaugural podcast that kicked us off. It was about a year ago now. I can't believe how fast time has gone.
The gang's back together.
The gang is back together. Yes, different room, same cast of characters. Most of us are at the same company. One of us has changed. We just had sort of a hot debate about agents. We weren't talking about agents a year ago. We're talking about them now. So tons to unpack. I brought notes this time. Last time, guys, we did this in a single take, no edits. Who knows what'll happen this time, but I'm sort of betting on us. But yeah, I mean, all bad jokes aside for now, there'll be many more. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for doing this one in Santa Barbara. Last time we did it down in Los Angeles. It's great to have you back. Really excited to dig into this conversation and just sort of catch up generally where you guys have been and where you're going. So yeah, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Great to be back with you.
Yeah. I appreciate that you color coordinated. I also like that the laptop's out. So I feel like the hard questions are coming.
That's true.
Yeah, we spoke before.
Yeah. We prepared a little bit for this time. Yeah. Not last
I was just afraid I was going to look worse than you.
That's never.
You were worried about that last time, and you both look equally good. Okay, let's do like quick catch up and context. JP, you are at Sonos. You were at Sonos last time. You continue to be at Sonos. Your role has evolved, and one of the things that I promise people to tune into this podcast is that we'll take a look behind the scenes at what goes on at iconic brands. And for me, Sonos remains one of those iconic brands. But your role has changed a little bit since we last spoke. And so, yeah, catch us up on what you've been up to and what you're excited to be doing next.
Yeah. I wouldn't say my role has changed. It's probably evolved, but it's been sort of a natural progression. I was sitting on a marketing focused team working for what we call CRM inside it, which is really focused on the customer. As I started taking more ownership over the platforms that we use, the strategy on how we're going to deliver those customer messages from a technical standpoint, it started becoming a MarTech role. And so I evolved to a MarTech senior manager of sweeping floors at MarTech.
Also, JP proudly wears the title of what did I write in my notes here? Our Chief Question Officer at Chord. So we launched a commerce Copilot, our first agent. Let's put a pin in the agent conversation for now. But our first agent that is there to act on behalf of our customers. And one of the things that it's good at and getting better at is answering questions. And there's no one that has asked more questions than you. My team loves watching your questions come in. And so
I think it's interesting, and I really appreciate Chord, and I think it's just really speaks to the paradigm shift we're having and how we think about data, understanding what's happening, and campaigns. Even at the simplest level, we're just thinking about a campaign report. Now that we're thinking about us using them on way, it's not as easy to get that data. You have to join it together. So when you ask Copilot a question, you're like, oh, I know what that has to do. It has to reach into a lot of tables to really understand that question. And I think it's fascinating to watch the results. And I also think it poses another challenge. And there's a lot of data to cover, for something like that, a Q&A process. Discussion is around how much time is saved, efficiencies you gain. And that's probably true, but there's also a lot of institutional knowledge in the people that like build the data model under. So it's been fun, like testing Copilot and really testing it against, our internal knowledge center.
Yeah.
And, and sort of like collaborating with you to hopefully develop that into a really great platform for marketers and not.
I think you're being very gracious. You're doing more than testing. I think you're helping us to build it. Josh, last we spoke, you were head of technology, CTO at Ruggable. You have changed roles. Ruggable, I still put in the category of an iconic brand, and you're proud of all the work you did there. And now you're at this company I had to look up to see what they do, MrBeast. And you have shed technology from your title. You're now the GM of commerce for MrBeast. I think that's a fascinating switch that see more and more technologists get a little bit closer to business or business getting closer to technology. So again, you're sort of like leading, I would say. But how's it been? Like a bit of a whirlwind for you, I imagine, landing in the East Empire?
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I love Ruggable, and I'm very proud of the work that we did, and very proud of the work that the team continues to do now. But it was time for me just to make a switch and figure out the next move. And this has been great. I think both brands we're selling more than just a product. We're really selling lifestyle. We're selling a movements. And so this idea that Ruggable, where it was all about alleviating stress, like how do we live a stress-free life? Moving to Beast, it's also about how we make kindness viral. And MrBeast, Jimmy Donaldson, is the best in the world at virality. And it's been a very cool mission to get behind about how do we blend ambition and kindness in such a way that I don't think a lot of other brands are doing, and kind of prove to the world that you can be successful not at the expense of being kind and making the world a better place, but that those two actually augment each other. So I've been very lucky in my career to work now for two companies where I just really get behind the brand. So it's been wonderful. I've had a great time. I'm about 6 months in now, and we have a lot of work to do, but the work is really fun.
Because the commerce business is nascent, right? Like you're trying to figure out how you can take that virality of content and translate that into commerce. Am I getting that right?
Right. Yep. 100%. And so it's not new. It's been around, but I think we're rethinking positioning and what we stand for, and then figuring out, how we can scale it.
So nascent isn't fair. What I mean to say is like leveraging what you ultimately have and figuring out just what it can become within this, what is ostensibly an empire now of like kindness. I love that.
Yeah, it's great. And how lucky am I? I mean, I'm a technology guy who is now surrounded by the most creative and brilliant people in the world. And so it's been...
Well, maybe we jump in there because I don't know if you guys are feeling it, but for me, I've been in technology for the last 30 years, and I think about these different evolutions, and that it used to be IT. There was no tech, like IT, and it became technology, and technology was always there to serve the business. And so like the business wants this, so now tech is going to do that. And recently, like as recently as the last kind of like 18 months, and exceptionally so now, sort of like the business and tech are one. And I think we're sort of seeing it in your role. Like you're inherently someone who's really technical that is sitting in a business role. And JP, it feels like the business teams, marketing teams, and technology teams are getting closer and closer together at Sonos. Do you guys think that's because of AI, which is not really something we talked about on the first podcast, but is you cannot walk 2 steps down a sidewalk without someone talking about AI? Is it because of AI, or is it just an inevitability that these two worlds were going to collide?
Sure. I'll start. No, I don't think it's AI. I think AI has helped speed it up. But I think that I've always said that at the end of the day, e-commerce is technology. It's all code in the end, right? And so I think it's that we've seen these e-commerce tools get better and better over the last time. And so I think because inherently, like what you're doing is technology, using technology to sell a product. I think the closer you can be to the technology, the better you can run them. Because you understand exactly how things are kind of working in the back end. So I think because Shopify is incredible and because we have Klaviyo and Braze and all these other wonderful marketing platforms, that it's allowed technology people kind of step out a bit and understand the business better.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. It's allowed business people to kind of step into the technology in a way that they weren't able to do prior. So I think just because the tools are getting so good, the two kind of converging.
Yeah.
And then AI is just speeding it.
It's an accelerant. Yeah. It's
I
easy.
agree. 100%. I think there's the technology is just advancing at a pace. And when you're in a space, technology tends to be technology forward, but as it evolves, it really becomes purpose forward. And technology is really serving the purpose of whatever it's meant. So in a marketing side, marketing platforms are now focused on people using them and really being able to implement great ideas with fast. And so I think that AI, I don't know if AI's even really changed anything yet, that really conversation. I don't know that if it's really sped up this evolution. I think this is happening anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this is a great segue because I wanted to talk about humans in the loop and superpowers, because I went back and I looked at the transcript from our first conversation, and we did talk about how you could use data to give the humans in the loop, the people between the brand and the consumers, or our customers, our advocates, our champions, how we could use data to give them superpowers. And I've been talking about this for a really long time, but I think practically it was kind of difficult to realize. One of the things that I'm seeing now with some of these tools is like, I'm not excited for a world where AI replaces me as the conduit to brand to customer, but I am excited to use AI to make it easier for me to connect with my customer, to give them a better experience. And so as I think about accelerants and I think about the sort of like the humans in the loop problem, I'd be curious, like what maybe you've seen or you're experimenting with that makes that ultimately possible. Like, I guess said another way, if we move past, like, it's not just about data, it's about maybe tooling and the accessibility of that tooling that allows like truly these superpowers to develop within an organization so that we can deliver better experiences.
I think a lot of the impetus to getting things to market is the amount of time that it takes to develop that idea. And I think where I find and see a lot of use, including myself with AI, is really being able to work through ideas very quickly to get to something that allows you a script to communicate with all the other stakeholders that you're going to have in building that project. And, I found it really good just working with you on some of the ideas that we have with Chord, and to develop an idea that we can use anonymous identified profiles in a safe way that will hopefully generate new customers.
Yeah.
If they aren't the actual customers we intended to, reach, and so we could use some AI to be more human about it. Let's test. Let AI generate 12 versions of the same message. Let's let AI figure out which person gets that message, and over time sort of understand which one works better for particular characteristics. And I could work through that sort of concept in a day rather than a couple weeks.
Right. Yeah. Cool. The thought partner.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm more of an internal optimist, I think. And so I'm not a AI doomsdayer or anything like that. I think that AI augments, it doesn't replace. It's helped us speed everything up. I mean, I can write a go-to-market strategy in 5 minutes now, which used to take me a day at least for a draft, right? And so it's incredible how fast it's allowed us to iterate. But I like what you said about people having superpowers. I think that AI has just allowed everyone to do 5 roles or 10 potentially. Which also, like, as a leader, like I now expect a lot more of people. So like if my go-to-market strategy doesn't get to me within a couple hours, I'm like, why?
Or can you tell if that go-to-market strategy that you got was slop? Like, this is what I'm struggling with right now. And I would love your points of view on this. Is like, is it a superpower that is misused? Is it a superpower that has been refined and something of quality has been delivered to you? Because you're right. Like, you can create a go-to-market strategy faster, better than ever before. You know what a good go-to-market strategy looks like. how do you know what is AI slop, which I'm seeing a ton of now, and something that is like, yeah, like a real person did this. I don't care how they got there. I'm shocked at how fast they got there and how good this is. But I know that someone like truly cared about doing this, and that's going to have an impact downstream for our customers.
Yeah, I think it's all about context and editing. And so this problem to me doesn't seem any different than back when I used to code every day. You could tell when a junior engineer was just copying from Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
And the function didn't make sense contextually with the rest of the application, but it sort of worked. Certainly wouldn't work at scale. Yeah, at scale, things start to break down, right? And so I guess kind of going back to an optimist, like I just think this is the same problem, but it's just supercharged. And so, yes, you can still tell that. You can tell if somebody hasn't done editing, but that's no different than the teaching moment that existed with Stack Overflow and the CLI. So it's just a teaching moment. I think you work with or whoever's sent whatever they sent and say like, this is how I would edit it.
Yeah,
this is what I want it to look like in the future. Let's try to make it look.
Yeah, you're not cheating. Don't hide the fact that you use these tools. Like, in fact,
no,
I celebrate the fact that you're using tools to do.
You must use it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I think we're in this stage of AI where we're asking, how do we use AI? Yeah, rather than talking about how do we achieve the end goals, and as we always did, choose the right tools to get there. I mean, just thinking about like writing, I think is an interesting one because, I have a boss and she is probably the best writer I've ever witnessed. And she can really just convince people with the argument really well. And I have tested AI against her and she has corrections every time and it always makes it better. And I think that speaks to the fact that AI is a tool in the end. There's not a human replacement there, but it's a tool. And to try to pull that tool up to be human, you find that it doesn't interact with humans very well.
Yeah. It has ruined M dashes for me. This content are my own, and that's getting a chuckle out of people.
I had like an HR line. Also, I've had to tell ChatGPT to stop using emojis multiple times. Like, please stop using emojis. No, but tell.
But I think that's really important. There's this sort of training. So I think we can agree that what's happening in organizations now is, I think most people are using something like a Claude or they're using ChatGPT. That's their thought partner. That's their individual thought partner that they're training. And I think, Josh, you sort of said it's all about context. As you're thinking about the enterprise or the organization, how do you try to get people on the same page in terms of context? Like, do you imagine these thought partners as being better if everyone is operating from a shared point of view in terms of like the nuance of a brand or our voice or what is acceptable, like what data we have access? Because I think that's a really hard problem that not enough people are talking about. I'd just be curious, like, is Sonos tackling this right now? Is there like an AI task force? How are you thinking about this at Beast? Capturing everything that's in Jimmy's brain as context so that if, the team is using some of these tools, you get that brand to come through. So yeah, JP, what's Sonos do? Publicly traded company.
Yeah.
Is AI scary?
Talking about everything, but AI is definitely a main part of the conversation these days. It's a main part of how we run these days. We have AI as part of the discussion or part of the tool set from top to bottom. We do have an AI task force probably living in, I would say, sort of two sides of the business. One on the business / marketing side and one on the technical side, really making sure that everything we use AI for is safe, contained, really ultimately serves the customer the best. Yeah, making sure it's wall guarded within the data that we know it serves the customer best. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's where we are today.
So you're thinking about it mostly from like a security point of view, but in terms of like training it so that it can, like, instead of you individually using ChatGPT and your colleague using something else and someone else, because these models are non-deterministic and like everyone getting a slightly different version of the same answer. Is that a problem that you're trying to solve today?
No. And actually it's control from the technology center. Okay. So we roll these things out so don't have permission to just use whatever, AI tool you want. We protect our customers' data. We make sure that we whatever we use internally or externally is extremely safe for all purposes.
Okay.
So that is one control of it, but really the control around the message of the output is done from humans. It's a top-down story, right? The leaders of our company say, this is our strategy. We all sit in human sessions on Zooms or in person together. We really grok that and we walk away with that. And then we use AI to write our next go-to-market strategies built around the leading strategy that we have. Okay. And that's it. So I think that as more people use it, I don't know if it's understanding what my colleague has written over here and what I've written and what the other colleague has and sort of putting that all together. But I'd always start with, this is what I want to do, and this is how it meets our current strategy, and let AI go from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that humans are still the ultimate editor, and to ensure that things are sharing, at least the output or sharing the context kind of across the organization. But I'll say, I think the trick here, and this is why I like Chord, just because this is what you're doing, is that structuring your data is so much more important now than ever. I would argue that potentially it's more important than the data, which seems like a sin to say. But we've talked a lot about BI as we know it changing dramatically, right? Like the interface is no longer Looker, it's now a chatbot, and should be, because it democratizes data in a really, really powerful way. And I think why that's powerful is because big decisions, in my experience, are not what changes a business. It's a collection of daily decisions made by people who are on the ground, optimizing that ad set by 10%, optimizing the email flow by 15%, whatever it is. And the collection of those optimizations, I think, lead to really big incremental changes.
It's like a big decision, but then it's executed on incrementally.
Correct.
Like how are we making sure that we are executing on this strategy that we set out?
Right. So without a good structure of the data, you can't trust the output that the LLM is giving you.
They stand no chance.
Right. And so especially, I've done this. I'm sure a lot of people have done this, where I'm literally uploading Google Sheets and, Excel files of data. And if my data set's slightly different than somebody else's data set, we're going to get a different answer. That's a big problem. It's a big problem in every organization. And so having a centralized repository database that's structured in a way that is optimized for an LLM, I think is incredibly powerful. And I think organizations that adopt that quick are going to win, and the ones that don't and allow their, account managers and whoever else to be uploading Excel files, those are the people who I think are going to get left behind.
Yeah, so we got to this part of the conversation faster than I intended to, but I think this is...
Sorry.
No, this is great.
Just skipping ahead.
This is the kind of the meat of it. And what I've learned in the last, call it 12 plus months of building here, is I woke up one day and I was like, is dimensional modeling dead? Do we even need to structure our data anymore? Can AI just do it? And what I realized, to your point, is that the structure of data matters more than ever before, because we have to train the LLMs if they're going to write. At the end of the day, if in a business intelligence context, we're asking them to write SQL. So how can I ask you this question? And maybe it's a really hard question. Like JP asks a bunch of really hard questions that any kind of senior analyst would take hours to answer. But in order to give these LLMs a fighting chance, the data has to be really well structured. That was the first problem we tried to solve. And even when we solved that with really well-structured data, what we learned were the answers coming back, we're still missing some nuance of the business. So that's the thing for me, bringing it back to context, is how can the businesses, if we think about these agents as people you're going to hire into your organization, if you hire any net new person, you need to onboard them, you need to give them access to your data, you need to give them access to tools, but they have to learn the sort of a certain acronym that Sonos or MrBeast might use. And yes, it's right, but by the way, if you look at this code, there's this little exception here because of this one period of time that we did this thing a certain way. What I'm really excited about in developing that context is there's real value there. I think that's where these businesses can start setting themselves apart, is by training it in that way. Here's the thing you need to know about our business, so that if we're asking you these questions, I'm not just giving you a kind of a generic answer. I'm giving you a Sonos specific answer. I'm giving you a MrBeast specific answer, because your transactional data, guaranteed to look similar, but your business context is very different. And I think that's where this war is going to be won. The other thing too, before I let you react to this context thing, I was in San Francisco this week and lucky enough to be in the audience to hear the chief scientist from OpenAI talk. And it was like, his talk was like equal parts terrifying, but also like really insightful as I think about how we use AI in the context of business intelligence. He's like, the models that we're building, we don't expect them to give the same answer every single time. They're non-deterministic. And I'm like, well, wait a sec. If I ask how many orders we placed last week, I want a very deterministic answer. I don't want something that is arbitrary. And so I actually think that brings me back to context. Like, how can we think about context not only as making sure the brand voice is consistent, but it's those guardrails that I can put in place that I can trust my entire organization. If they ask a question, they're going to get an answer that I can trust. So I think we're very early in the game of talking about context. I think we're going to end up conflating it with data. But for me, this is the part that I'm really excited about. And we're just sort of getting started. And I've seen some of the context that you contributed. And I'd just be curious, like MrBeast to me sounds like you're sitting on this sort of treasure trove of context that you can use to train models. So how do you help your teams think about the difference between data and context? Does that even matter? Am I barking up the right tree? Might be a hard question to answer.
Yeah, I need to think about it. I mean, I think context is king, right? The context is just empathy, I think, to be said way. I can't speak for the creative side of the business. Like on the commerce side, I agree with you. Like there are certain, you don't need to use an LLM for every customer.
No.
Like, and I wouldn't use an LLM to say how many words did I get. I guess I would use the chatbot, but I would change the chatbot. I would train, the chatbot to output a piece of SQL that I approved to give me orders, for instance.
But so can that piece of SQL that you approved also be context?
It is. That's for sure context.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Yeah. Because it just means this is what I need when I say this.
Yeah. Don't go interpret this differently. You know what the answer is because I've given you this context. This is what we want.
I think you just train the models on that context. But at the end of the day, though, I mean, it's still, this is why it doesn't replace humans. Hallucinations are a real thing, and you need somebody double checking.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, just by the fact of the UI as a tab, it's a relationship that's built on language, right? So you have to find that common language in the data that you have and how you speak to it. So that's part of now the modern data scientist role is coming up with terminology that is acceptable across the organization to be used. Yeah. And I think that's what we're finding when we test out Chord is that, when I start just being very basic about the way I phrase things, it has a harder time understanding. It will come up with an answer, but then it's taking a lot more of its own latitude in terms of the context, right? And so, you guys have done a good job in the background of really helping us find context because you know our business well after being our partner for the last couple of years. So I think that's important.
Do you need to use an LLM for everything though?
I don't, and actually I kind of struggle with that. Even in Chord, like the I do like the visibility of SQL sometimes. I struggle with just being able to do segmentation, and I just want to verify the segmentation. I want to know that every time I run the SQL, it's doing exactly the same way. And by hiding that, I feel like there's a little loss of control and a little loss of trust that happens at the same time.
We do show you the SQL.
You have to show the SQL. I think Shopify does a good job of that as well. Yeah, they show you the SQL. I don't know. The car is great. You don't need a car to walk the door, right? You don't need to use. Sure. Not my kind of car. You don't need to use AI for absolutely everything.
No, I think you shouldn't. Yeah. There's a laziness to it. I do think that business intelligence, when it burst onto the scene, in its current incarnation, the Lookers and the Tableaus and the Domos and the Omnis of the world, it was we're going to democratize access to the entire organization. And they're all independently wonderful products, but they can be difficult to use. One of the things that's been super eye-opening for me is we released the Copilot to some design partners. And there's been a number of, we give seats to almost everyone in the organization for a customer that signs with us. And we're seeing all of these net new logins and people asking questions that have never logged in before. And to me, I'm like, well, that's really great. I love seeing these questions. My favorite thing to do in the morning is I wake up and I look at questions that people have asked the Copilot overnight. And then I'm like, how well did we do? But it's neat for me to see new people. I was like, well, why? They had this data before. We didn't just give them new data. What we gave them was an easier way to access it. So I am excited about, how do I say this the right way? I'm excited about the role that AI can play to truly democratize access to the business. But what I'm realizing is that really what we've done is we've allowed companies to hire a new person on their team. We've allowed you to hire an analyst that you didn't maybe have the budget for before to be able to say, I've got this question or I have this hypothesis. Can you go and work on that for me? And then like you've got this army of agents who are like, I'd be happy to. And I didn't mean to see the agent conversation, but I have. We're going to come back there. But I think it's less about AI and more about there's these new jobs that can be satisfied within an organization in a friendlier format. It is something that is conversational. But again, it's sort of, do we trust them to do it? So if you'll indulge me and let me use this analogy of like hiring new people. So if you were to hire a junior person out of your team today, and you think about onboarding them and you think about giving them access to things and training them, are you doing enough within an organization when you onboard AI right now first of all, do you think about them as a junior level employee? Is that fair? And are you trying to train them so that you can grow them from junior to mid-level to senior? Or are you happy with them just hanging out at this level? How do you set expectations?
I'm not going to get in trouble in answering that one.
I don't mean to get anybody in trouble.
But yeah, go ahead. You go first.
I was just going to say no, probably. Like we don't do enough of that. I am consistently surprised by how much better my answers are getting. And I realize now that if I were to spend more time training, I could have these good answers.
Is it because you're getting better at prompting it? Because like prompting is almost like employee training.
I could say yes.
Yeah, okay. Just the models are getting better. Yeah.
I don't know if the model's getting better. It's just that it's the amount of context that I've given.
Okay. So it's learning about agents.
Well, it also, without prompting anything about Beast Industries, now I get answers that are specific to Beast Industries. And I'll ask a general question and I'll get a general answer. And then I'll get another blurb about like how that directly applies. I didn't ask that, which is great, because like I should have. Back to me not being great at writing prompts. I certainly think I've gotten better, but my point is like I don't think that we're doing enough to train. And I think your analogy is a good one where you would never hire somebody and immediately give them the most complex task, without first them proving that they can do the simple tasks well. So I think probably everyone, but certainly me, could do a better job at training new AI models as we adopt them.
I mean, I'll put a big frame on this. Economics change everything, right? Company economics, when you're in a period of growth or whether in a period of decline, will really change sort of your lens on that. And so let's just take a place where let's just take a situation where you're in a place where you have to do more with less.
Yeah.
And this is where AI is really a big part of the language now, like the part of the way we speak is like, how do we use AI to help us do more with less? And so I think that the roles hiring is always the same. You find the right person for the role that you're hiring for, and you make it very specific about the responsibilities in the role, but a person grows by kind of getting outside of that and really discovering out of that. So if we're going to bring that back to AI, if they can come in and sort of like be self-starters, use AI to really build themselves into a better person that's fitting that role, then they're going to evolve. And often people don't like grow into new roles within a company. They kind of build their role because they're doing that already. And I think that's just like Google. You go from school, we're having to go to a library and pick up a book, and then you have Google, and you can Google all the research that you need. Now you have AI to do that research at like hyper speeds for you. I think it's just really evolving everyone's potential capabilities. And that's what I'm really excited about, is that everyone around me who was already the most brilliant person I ever worked with is now even more brilliant. Yeah, they're even more quick about bringing ideas to the table.
So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's such a good point. I was just talking to my wife about this, that memorization used to be so important.
Yes.
Right. And then that skill is, I think, kind of with my generation,
how I got through school.
Right. And no longer is that important. Now, my generation was, how quickly could you find an answer to something?
Yeah.
That was much more important than memorizing that answer. In fact, it probably was much better for you to not have all that. And your memory needs to be signed with memorizer. And I think now it's much more important to how quickly can you ideate.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not anyone can find the answer immediately now. But now it's like, how well can you ideate and iterate? Yeah. And AI is so powerful in letting you do that, just as Google was so powerful in helping you find the answer.
Right.
And so it's just the skill sets they're just changing. What's important today is not going to be as important tomorrow. And I think the ideas people and the creatives are the stars. I mean, they always have been, but they really are now because they have such a powerful tool to help them ideate, iterate, and execute.
So, but the two of you are talking about a very hands-on approach to AI. I didn't mean for us to talk about as much about AI as we have, but I think it's interesting. To me, I'm drawing this parallel to being like a really good manager. And I think like you get out of the employees that you're bringing on what you put into them. And I think what I am sort of so far seeing is the more I put into kind of training AI, or maybe it's an attention to prompting, the more I'm getting out. And so I'm sort of wondering if that ideation or that willingness to work with the tools that we have is what's going to separate like the next generation of commerce operators. And I hope that's where we are versus how can I automate the process of what it means to be a brand faster than someone else? Because to me, that's where we lose the soul versus I get out what I put in. Do you have a point of view on that? Like, are you trying to automate everything so you can do more with less? Or is it really more about like, how do we be even better at what we do so we can do more faster?
I mean, honestly, to your point, we're a brand and brands are human by nature. Like, brand is a human definition that you can't really put your finger on. You just know that it's something more than the product itself. There's a broader understanding and emotion that goes on top of the product that you're selling, right? And so that is a human conversation that needs to happen. So no, I actually don't think about that at all. We really take a customer first lens at it. So if we're going to talk about a customer experience, the way that we approach it is, what is the customer experience? Who is that customer at that given moment? What do we know about them at that moment? And how can we develop a really good customer experience that helps them understand the brand? And it's very hard at the prospect stage or the lead stage where you don't know anything about that customer, right? You might know where they came from or what attracted them, but really you know nothing about them at that point. There is a point there where I say that I sort of envision AI being a tool where I could iterate very quickly and try to learn something about that stage of the customer that might not reveal who they are, but obviously offer them something that's more attractive at that moment, right? And that's the thing. When you're thinking about a brand, people come to you because they're excited about having something more, like more than a speaker. Yeah, Sonos is like a system. It is beautiful. It has the best sound, but it's also got an iconic history that's all built around that passion, right? And so people come there and they want that. And so if they're coming in that moment, that's what we're selling them. And we got to make sure that we deliver on that. I won't trust AI to do that in all those moments, right? So I think that's the challenge, is figuring out where can it assist, but still make sure that you don't deviate from the brand, which is a very human conversation.
So I think it's well said. Back to what I said before, I think it's augmenting, not replacing.
Yeah.
Like, certainly there are tasks that are no longer necessary, but that is normal and that's progress. And I don't think anything to shy away from. I also think it's great that AI kind of has allowed like free technology guys to be here talking about brand, right?
Yeah.
It's like something
that's true.
The engineer me 10 years ago can't believe that I now have tools that have enabled me to be able to do this. So yeah, I think it's all about augmentation. We're not trying to automate everything. Yeah, we're automating what we can, and then we're trying to make ourselves better. And I think back to this ideation and iteration, that's where the true power is, I think, on our side. And so with AI specifically. And that's what we're doing.
I think more brands need to hear that. The more that I talk to people, whether it's at conferences where it's Chatham House rules, or you talk to people, there's this idea that everyone else has automated it. Everyone else has deployed AI within their organization. But I think the truth is we're still trying to figure out like how we can use it to augment. And I have like two ideas that come to mind, and maybe we'll try to wrap up here. The idea of, for anyone who's earlier in their career that is listening to us this afternoon, wondering how they augment and how they use these tools, how do you, if you got a year or two of experience, like what advice would you have for someone to use some of these tools, but to understand how to do quality control, how to really think about getting 10 or 50 years of incremental experience, like hands-on the job? Because I really worry about that layer now. How do you go from, like, I can look at something and be like, well, I wrote code for 30 years. Like, I know that this is not going to work in production. But if I've never shipped production code, how can I use some of these tools that are incredibly powerful to give me a shot and to allow me to augment? And I have a tough follow-up to that. But yeah, let's start there. I don't have an easy answer for this. I hope you have something smart to say.
Never. I think that
That's true.
it's interesting because I guess back to me being kind of an optimist about all of this, this doesn't feel different. I used to have junior level engineers, their entire job was to build landing pages. They're writing static HTML and CSS with some JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore. And that's not because of AI. That's because the tools have gotten better. There are, I think, lots of people learning how to code right now who are not learning JavaScript. They're specifically learning React.
Yeah.
Right. They're learning the framework that is written on top of the language versus like the language themselves, which I don't think that's a great idea. But my point is I think this is progress. The jobs change and roles, I think, tools get better. So roles allow you to do more, I think. So, I think it's just all about how can you use the tools that you have to ideate and output as much as possible. And then the advice I would give to somebody, I'm rambling a little, but the advice I give somebody early in their career is to mine for conflict, which I'd tell anyone to do that. But I think what that means for them is to ask questions constantly.
Yeah,
and
be
say,
serious.
Yeah, this is what I outputted with, and then go to someone who's more senior and get their opinion on it or whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, that's almost part of the playbook when you're an engineer, right? Like PRs are a thing. Yeah, like reviews are a thing. But I think for any role, take the go-to-market strategy that you had ChatGPT write for you.
Yeah.
And to somebody more senior and say, how does this work? What does this mean? I actually don't even know.
That's amazing advice. And you can even ask ChatGPT to do an initial code review through the lens of a senior engineer. If I'm worried, if I have anxiety about bothering someone or taking up their time, or I don't know if the code is good, if I'm curious and I care, and it's not just about getting to a fast answer, I can do that and be like, oh, like, how would I make that better? How would a senior engineer think about this? How is this going to hold up? As opposed to just thinking about, I just need to shit something out better and faster and quicker. Like, I need to be curious and I need to want to grow. So yeah, I think there's hope. You know, those are the people that are going to be the stars.
I think so. I think that this is a tool that is going to make us continue progress.
I can't believe how easy it's been to come back. I was like 2 years removed from like writing actual production code. And I've tried some of these tools and I was like, wow, I cannot believe it.
They let you write production code?
Yes, still. So
Yes,
I don't remember.
So we have still shipped things to production. Well, like when you're writing the CEO, this is like,
right. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I don't think I could write production ready code anymore.
I would. You would no surprise percent agree with you. I mean, the greatest person you're going to hire or add to your team is a curious self-starter. And the tools that are available today just allow someone has the propensity to do great things much quicker. Yeah, but I agree with you that you have to be able to present that. And the biggest skill and the hardest thing to sort of break through to be successful is having that tough conversation all the time with your managers, making yourself visible, being willing to contest things, being willing to have the guts to present something when you know you're out of your lane. You know, those are the things that like develop growth, not only in your career, but as a human, I think.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of developing humans, you're both fathers to daughters. JP, you have 2 daughters. Both are, yes, you're welcome, late teenagers, in fact. So
is that when you're still a teenager?
Well, okay, yes, no longer a teenager, a young adult and teenager. So entering the workforce where AI is going to be kind of top of mind. And Josh, you have an 11-month-old who is still quite far away from joining the workforce. So by the time Madeline gets there, AI will not be a thing. It'll just be sort of like common language. But JP, for your kids, right now, it's really sort of something. So forget like the next generation. Think about your generation. Like, what advice would you have for them with regard to AI? I think about this. I have a daughter as well. And I remember people asking me, what language do you want to teach her next? And I was like, not a spoken language. I want to teach her JavaScript. Now I wonder if like that's the right advice for her. So yeah, does what you're seeing and what you're working on today what advice would you have for your daughters? And is it the same advice for your 20-year-old and your 14-year-old?
Not necessarily. And that's because they're different personalities and they sort of attack the world in different strategies. My older one, she's in college right now. AI is very applicable, or less she's doing. And I said, look, you need to use AI to really help you do this hard subject matter. She wants to be a veterinarian, so she's chemistry, biology, all of it, these impossible subjects, right? Tons of learning. And I said, well, you don't use it to help you learn. That's not going to work that way, but what you do is you ask it questions like, how can I memorize this in a strategic way that will help me do better on the test? Like phrasing things in a way that you would with other colleagues, or if she had the ability to have a veterinarian and, that she could talk to every day, is like, how do I do good on this test? Like if you have that, that's the person.
Now you have a veterinarian you talk to every day.
How do I ace this test? Well, you can learn how to use AI to like really make these incremental improvements in your life every day. Right. So that's the advice I give her is like, don't think about it as cheating. Think about it as helping, and use it to help you, not to cheat or try to get a better grade. The goal is to learn. And if you ask it, how do I learn better? You're going to get some really great results. I don't think I talked to my kid about like AI much. It's an interesting subject for my 14-year-old because she just got a phone, and I've been the strict dad that hasn't given my kids access to phones. But yeah, they were later, and I just wanted them to socialize more. I think social skills is one of the things we're not talking about here that is really important for career advancement, right? And some of us that were phones obviously dealt with people one-on-one, and you developed a different skill set around how you communicate. I think for my 14-year-old, she's in AI all the time because she's looking at TikTok and social media. And so she's sort of grokking like what society and how to be is from like these 15-minute videos. And so I spent time like really talking to her about what AI is doing in the Gen AI space and really how it's developing this kind of content really quickly for her. And so that she gets an understanding that there is a disreality in the reality that she's viewing, right? And to look up, put the phone down, look up and kind of look out what's happening and try to marry those two together, to develop something. And that's a big conversation for a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't talk like that to her, but that's what my strategy is overall.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. It's hard to imagine this. She can't just stay a baby forever. It's crazy. She's already almost a year old, which is insane to me. But I think what I would encourage Madeline, is her name, to do is be discerning, question everything, and form her own opinions. I think the dark side of AI right now is just how lifelike the generative AI is becoming, and so it's hard to discern what's real and what's not, which I just think it's so important to form your own opinions and come up with your own solutions after looking at all the facts. And I think I would encourage her to have empathy, try to see things from other people's perspectives, and to try to even walk in other people's shoes as much as possible. I don't know exactly what I'd tell her about AI. To your point, I don't think won't be called AI anymore. It's just part of the power of laggy network, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that I hope that she questions everything that her mom and I do, and that forces us to explain things constantly. Yeah, I know. I have to be careful what I wish for, right? But I'm really excited for her to to see her personality forming, and to see her becoming a little person with her own opinions. And anyways, I don't know if I answered that question directly about AI, but I think it's It's really just to be critical about things. And
You both gave me the perfect way to wrap us up. And again, we did this in a single take. But as I think about, first of all, the conversation is so different than the last time, which is a little bit more technical. Now we're talking about the landscape has changed dramatically. And whether we're talking about the brands that we work at, or we're talking about raising our daughters, like AI is center of the conversation right now. And what I'm hearing from the two of you is it can be incredibly powerful, but it's not a shortcut. It's not a shortcut to get to like a shitty answer, or so that I can sort of like dive back in. It's to be really curious, or to be discerning, and to use it to learn, not to use it to cheat. And I think that's really important, whether you're doing it to get better at school, or whether you're doing it to ship a better product, or a better go-to-market strategy, or whatever it's going to be. It is just a tool. But at the end of the day, it's like it requires us to be critical thinkers, to be discerning, to be curious, and to always want to be learning. We're just learning something new. And ultimately, that's really the goal of these conversations, is that I still don't think there's anything that is magic going on behind the scenes at the best brands. The magic is really the people, and being curious, them wanting to connect with their customers, and being willing to do the hard work. And so when I hear sometimes people saying like, well, we're going to automate what it's like to be a brand, and a brand is going to be a single person operation, I'm like, that's not a brand I want to be friends with. That's not a brand that I want my daughter to be friends with. And so I want more of that critical thinking, that curiosity, use tools the right way. This is an incredibly powerful tool. I think we're just getting started. That's the other thing that hopefully this conversation has revealed for people, is to go and experiment, be a critical thinker, but don't think that it's a solved problem. I've been railing against this idea that commerce is a solved problem for the last decade. So this has been another amazing conversation with you guys. We did it again in a single take. So we're setting the bar high for round 3. But yeah, I think I'll wrap us up here. Thanks for coming up to Santa Barbara. Great conversation, and looking forward to the next one.
it's great. I mean, just being surrounded by such smart people. So I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
Smart but curious together. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and like good examples of being a great dad.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
That was fun.